So, yes, I know. I told first 10 USNs to prepare for the presentation. Are you prepared? From Asta to USN 10. Yes. Prepared or not prepared? One person had sent a message that they cannot talk over the microphone, they will text. Excuse me. I did not get their name. Yeah, those who are sending me, please let me in. I would like to tell you. Yeah, Abhijit Kumar. Okay, sir, fine. Please, I would like to tell you auto admit has been enabled. I need not have to press admit for everyone. So please stop sending these messages on the WhatsApp group. Okay? It may be your network is slow or there is a network problem with your end. If my network is working here, others are able to log in, it is auto admit. Everyone will be enabled. Fine with this? So all of you are prepared. Anyone who has not prepared? Fast respond. Otherwise, I'll start, I'll ask them to give, and then don't tell me network connection. So anyone, so all of you are prepared? Very good. So let's start with your presentation first, and then I will give the lecture. I finish start with my classes. Oh, one person. So you didn't ask what was going on? So Abhishek Mishra, this is the first time I'm giving you I'm giving you an option. Next class you should be prepared. Okay? Apart from Abhishek Mishra. You also, sir? Fine. Then you two will be compulsorily next class you will give. Don't worry. So out of other 10, two have skipped. The other 8, have you prepared? So Asta, do you want to start first?
Yes, ma'am. I have prepared on functional and non-functional requirements.
Good.
Uh, func-
You
Functional
want to start?
requirements.
Fine. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Functional requirements are the statements of services the system should provide, and also how the system should react to some particular inputs. It may also state what the system should not do. It describes functionality or system services, and it depends on the type of software or the type of system where the software is used. And functional user requirements may be high level statements of what the system should do, and functional system requirements should describe the system services in detail. And non-functional requirements are the constraints on the services or function offered by the system, such as timing constraints, and the constraints on the development process, standards, and other things. And mm, mm, and Non-functional requirements, and the process may also be specified as mandating a particular IDE, programming language, or development method. It may be more critical than functional requirements. If these are not met, the system may be useless. I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Asta. So you explained what are functional requirements, that is the requirements associated with the functionality. Non-functional requirement, as you said, timing constraints and all come under non-functional requirements. Thank you, Pa. So next, whom shall I give? So one finished. So shall I give 10? Akanksha, you're there? Okay, Akanksha. So on what topic you want to give? You can use your microphone and start up.
Ma'am, object-oriented organized software is a collection of distinct objects, ma'am, that incorporate both data structure and
One second,
behavior.
Akanksha. One second. Akanksha, think about you are explaining to the entire class. Okay? Hmm? And
Okay.
when you are addressing to the entire class. Think like that and address. You can start, Pa.
Good morning to all. Object-oriented organized software as a collection of distinct objects that incorporate both data structure and behavior. There are four aspects in that. First one is identify and then classification, inheritance, polymorphism. In that, the first one is identity, means that data is quantized data, distinct, distinguishable entities called objects. Objects can be concrete, such as a file in a file system, or conceptual, such as scheduling policy in a multiprocessing operating system. Each object has its own inherent identity. And then its classification once again means that objects with the same data structure and behavior are grouped into a class. Then a class means a class is an abstraction that describes properties important to an application and ignores the rest. In it,
Can you give one example for inheritance? Generalization?
yeah, ma'am, like fixing fixed windows, scrolling windows,
Hmm.
or subclasses of window, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. Subclasses of a window class. Good, Pa. Fine. Thanks, Akanksha. So, USN 2, Yusuf, because all of you are giving only for 5 minutes, I think then everyone can get a chance. Yusuf, you're there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Yusuf. On what topic you want to give?
Waterfall model.
Okay, Pa. Thank you so much. You can start. You want me to put the slide for this? Or it is
No,
fine?
ma'am.
Okay, fine.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, continue.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to speak a few words about waterfall model. A waterfall model, it is a plan-driven model. It has separate and distinct phases of specification and development. This model is also known as software lifecycle. Now, what does plan-driven model mean? Plan-driven model means all the process activities which must be planned and scheduled must be before starting the work. There are 5 principal stages of waterfall model. They include requirements analysis and definition, system and software design, implementation and unit testing, integration and system testing, operation and maintenance. The first one, requirements analysis and definition. In this stage, the system services, constraints, and goals of the project are established by consultation with the system users. These system services, constraints, goals are then defined in detail, and these serve as a system specification. The second one, system and software design. The system design process allocates the requirements to either hardware or software systems by design is realized as a set of programs or program units. Unit testing involves testing whether each unit meets its specifications. The next one is integration and system testing. The individual program units or programs are integrated and tested as a complete system to ensure that the software requirements have been met. After testing the software, system is delivered to the customer. The last one is operation and maintenance. This is the longest software lifecycle phase in which the system is installed and put into practical use. Maintenance involves correcting errors which were not discovered in earlier stages of the lifecycle. Thank you, everyone. Ma'am?
Yes, Yusuf, can you, if you know, what are the advantages and disadvantages of waterfall model? If you can answer, you can answer.
The advantage of waterfall model is if it is a complex or a large project which we are working on, then it is wise to implement waterfall model.
Mhm.
And why the disadvantage is if we are using waterfall model, then after completing a particular phase, then it becomes very difficult to incorporate a change in the previous phase.
Yes, sir. Good. So what he says is, um, waterfall model. Yes, if it's a very big project and you have a lot of time, then you plan ahead and you can come up with a waterfall model that is there. But if it is a small project, then it is not feasible to use waterfall model because planning takes more time than the implementation. And the other thing what he said was disadvantage of waterfall model you're there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Aditya. What topic do you want to speak on?
Requirements engineering.
Okay, Pa, please start.
Ma'am, can I present?
Sure, you can take the presenter control. I will
Great.
wait. I will stop presenting. Okay, you can present. Now, others, don't think you can log out or you can aramsa sit or don't listen. Whatever any person explained, I will ask you to repeat. Yes, Aditya,
Yes, ma'am. Wait.
I'll mute.
Visible, ma'am.
Yes, Aditya, you can. Um, But I am not able to see your presentation. Others, are you able to? Yeah, no,
Is
Aditya.
it?
No, not
No, ma'am.
visible.
Okay.
Maybe it is slow because it is telling you have taken the presentation control, but it is not showing your PPT. It
Okay, ma'am,
is
can I share you the PPT and you will present it?
sure. Mail it across.
I'm sending you it on WhatsApp.
No, WhatsApp. Can you send it to my email? Because
Okay.
from my WhatsApp, I have to send it to email to open in my. I'm doing it in the college system. That's the reason. By the time you send and I download it and do it, I can give others a chance. Send it across. Take your time. Aditya, now I am able to see your screen. Aditya, I think you can present now because we are able to see your screen. Okay, let's give him time. Okay, guys, the first 10 USNs, maybe the three people who gave already. Was it very difficult for you? Akanksha, Asta, was it very difficult for you people? Give me a frank reply. It was difficult, Asta? No? Fine. See, I want every week I will give 15-20 people. Let's spend half an hour. Anyway, we have lots of time to complete the portions. Okay. I'm already the fourth and I'm in my third module. Fourth and fifth modules are very easily I can complete. 1 week, 2 weeks is enough. So I don't want to rush. Simply me going with completing the entire 5 modules and you people don't have any idea about what is going on in the subject does not have any meaning, right? So I can give each week 10 to 15 members or 20 members per week giving 5 minutes or 10 minutes presentation. At least by this you will learn what is going on in the subject. At least you will open your books like this. Yes. So I think it will not be an issue. Fine. So I can start at 10:15, something like that, and I will complete by 1 hour. I can take class, and then I can give you around 40 minutes for around 10 people or 8 or 7 people to present. It's fine, right? So let's by then tomorrow we'll start from USN 11 to USN 20. Mean tomorrow in the sense next class, that is Saturday's class. Is it okay? Yes, last Saturday I was on leave. That's the only reason I did not take class. So apart from that, is it fine? So USN 11 to 20. I don't know why he is not sent or there is some problem with this connection. So USN 11 starts from Chakravardhan to USN 20 Anusha BR, okay, including 2 Abhijits will be giving presentation on Saturday. Fine. And I would request take a topic which is not selected by the students who have already done today's topic. Okay, today what did they do? Waterfall model, non-functional and functional requirements, and yes, object-oriented modeling. So I think you can take some other concept. Fine. Or you want something from them only? Okay, fine. Send the PPT. Which email, sir? Yeah, got it. Yes, Aditya, you can start.
Yes, ma'am.
You let me know when you want
Morning,
me to move the
everybody.
slide.
Okay, ma'am. We are going to talk about the requirements of engineering. So it is the process.
Aditya, your voice is faint.
Requirements engineering. It is the process of understanding and defining what kind of services do we require from system and identifying the limitations and constraints from that system's operation and then develop it. Here I have put it. Here I have put an image in which we can see there's a diagram which consists of user, elicitation, specification, validation, and problem domain. It basically gives an overview of what kind of steps we have to go through during this requirements engineering. Next, ma'am. Next slide, ma'am. So why do we need requirements engineering? So here is the case when we are not using requirements engineering to find what kind of services do we require. In the first image, we can see that the customer is telling what kind of system or software he or she will be requiring. Okay. The second part says that the third image, it is said that according to what the software engineers or the system supply people have understood from the explanation of the client, they have documented what kind of project they have to make, and then they write that code. Apparently the code that they have written is not satisfying whatever conditions that the user have defined. Okay, so when the software is delivered to the client, we can see that the users will be disappointed, but still, since the company has worked as per their part and they believe that what they have done, what exactly they were told to do, they'll ask for the exact amount of money that they have initially agreed on. Okay, so if, since the system is not accurate, then the client will again send this system for maintenance and some refactoring. For this, another a large amount of money will be spent, and then even then there's a big percentage of chance that the system will never get tuned in the way that the client wants. Next slide, ma'am. So here is the view in here is the process of the requirements engineering that we have to overtake here. Basically, when we talk about requirements engineering, we discuss the activity steps. In practical sense, all of these activities have to be done together concurrently, and all of them are interlinked with one another. In this, this is a spiral view of the requirement engineering process. It is divided into three sectors. The sector number one states the requirement elicitation. Here it includes the two stages. One is the user requirement elicitation, means what the user wants. The second is system requirement elicitation, means discovering the requirement that the system will need to have, on what environment it has to run, what kind of limitations are there on it, non-functional requirements, etc. Okay. Now, next is the requirement specification. In this sector, there are three stages: business requirement specification, user requirement specification. Ma'am, I cannot see the PPT. Okay. So in the second sector, we had three stages. First is the business requirement specification. This in this requirement specification, we try to document what are the budgets, what is the schedule time, all the agreements that we have to make between the supplier and the client is done in this specification. Second is the user requirement specification. It is abstract. It is a summarized way of summarized document data, which is set in a form of document, which states what kind of system requirement. It is written in manual way. No technical terms are used, so that even the non-technical stakeholders can understand what kind of requirements are used here. The third one is the system requirement specification and modeling. In this, we use UML diagrams, models, etc. Along with that, we use complex terms to completely elaborate what kind of system is needed here, what will be the requirements, what kind of environment we will be using, etc. At the in the third sector, we have requirements validation. Basically, requirement validation refers to checking if there are any errors between what kind of model we have developed and the requirements that users have sent us. Is there any room of improvement? If there is, if there is kind of improvement that could be done, we will be moving to the previous two sectors. It consists of three stages. Feasibility study. It checks if the proposed system at the initial stage, whatever system we have been proposed with to create, is it possible to do it with our current systems? Is it practical to create it within the budget that we have been provided with? Second is the prototyping. In this prototyping, basically it is assembled. We use use cases along with various other models to describe the what kind of software we will be creating. The third is the reviewing. Reviewing considers the correction or any kind of checking that we have to do here. At the end, we will get the system requirement document, complete set of data defining the requirements, the agreement that we are making with the supplier and between the supplier and the client, etc. Next slide, ma'am. Now, requirement engineering process is basically divided into four activities. First is requirement feasibility, second is requirement elicitation and analysis, third is requirement specification, and fourth is requirement validation. Practically, these activities are occurring concurrently. That means they are not working separately. We have to do it together. They'll be working side by side, not in a waterfall technique. Next slide, ma'am. So the first point is feasibility study. It is an analysis of a proposed project to determine whether it is feasible and should go ahead. Basically, here we analyze that whatever the client is demanding regarding the system, is it possible to do it economically, technically? Is it can we make it operational, and can we do it within the time limit that we have been provided with? Also, we check if there is any ethical or legal problems that is associated with it. Okay, so in the economic feasibility, we have cost benefit analysis. Basically, we see that suppose we are given around 10 warranty. So in that, can we make this particular system with all the optimal optimization that we have to do? If not, then this feasibility study can fail. Can prove that this proposed system cannot be done. Second is the technical feasibility. It checks the current system that we have, the current technology that we are using, is it sufficable for the creation of that system or not? Then the third is operational feasibility. It checks if the system, the hardware that we will be using, if is there enough speed, is there enough capacity to use it, etc., etc. And the fourth part is schedule feasibility. Suppose we have been given a time of 3 months. to complete that particular system. Now, we have to check if that system is so complicated that can we make it in 3 months or not, have more time. If it does not satisfy either of the 4 or 5 conditions, then the proposed system will not be done. The next point, ma'am. So basically, a feasibility study is a short focus study that only when the client is going to supply for the software. It answers two questions that we provided here. First, contribute to overall objectives of the organization. That means, can it be beneficial or not? Can the system be implemented in schedule and budget? That means, is we are provided with and this time that has been given, can we complete that particular system in that kind of time and money? The system related with the other systems that I use. That means, is it compatible with the systems that was the system. That means that all the conditions that we have checked, it is optimal. Means we have to move to the next station.
Yes, Aditya. I'll ask you to stop at this after feasibility. Because your presentation, 17 slides, I can't give you so much time. Is it okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya. Really very good effort you have put. Um, Actually, the best thing about your PPT I liked was this slide. What is the expectation, what was the customer needed, and what was delivered. This is what most of the times happens if we don't do requirements gathering or requirements engineering properly. Very good, Aditya. And in today's whatever you have presentation, it was, I mean, whatever you have done, it was up to the mark. Very nice. Only one thing I want to add is, yes, you are fine, you gave the presentation. For the others, whenever you are giving the presentation, yes, if it is outside, it is okay. Kamal Nayan, will you stop this? Only one thing I wanted to add is, generally when you're presenting, it is very well. But for the students, other students, or for you also, one thing I would suggest is, yes, for your knowledge, it is well and good. But while you're writing for your examination, essay as a subject, okay, please do write whatever is there in the textbook. Figures as
Okay,
well
ma'am.
as designer. Aditya, for this presentation, it was apt. Whatever you done was perfectly correct. But only thing was, don't try to write these things for your final exam. Reason
Yes,
being
ma'am.
is why it is correct. I don't say it is not right. But most of the examiners who come there to evaluate your answer scripts will be given a solution paper. For us, even if I go, they will have given whoever has set the question paper. For your knowledge, I'm telling you, all of you listen. Whoever has set the question paper, they will also give the answers for that. Answers means not complete written. They will tell this point should be there, and for this they should expect what and all should be there for that answer, and how much marks to give. So naturally, when they are coming up with the answers, they will refer to the textbook and they will say this figure should be there, this explanation should be there. If there are 4 steps for requirements, the 4 steps or this diagram. So when I am evaluating, yes, I know it is correct. What really generally you are explaining, but when I see what is expected in the answer script, it is not there, right? Then you might lose marks. Some might give, but some will not give, right? For your understanding purposes, everything is good. But while you want to score marks and pass in the exam, please refer to the textbook. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Fine.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, very good effort, Aditya. And maybe if in case if you're in internals, I will make it a point that I'll give you 1 mark extra for whatever presentation you have given today. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Next, Adish, have you prepared? Adish Sharma. So I will give one last person chance and we will go on with the class. Adish, you're
Yes, ma'am.
there?
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, you're prepared, Adish?
Yes, ma'am. I would give some points
Ah,
on use cases.
use cases. Good, sir. Fine. And you want to present something or you'll just explain?
No, ma'am. I'll just
Okay, fine.
okay.
Yeah, sure. Carry on.
Yes. So use cases were discovered by Jacobson et al. 1993, and they were mostly came in use with the unified modeling language. In the simplest form, we can say that these cases identifies the actors that are involved in the interaction, and the names of the types of interaction are stated. This is then supplemented by any additional information, and it is basically a system where the information is kind of transmitted between different people using the textual description or any other graphical representations. The humans that are represented in this diagram are represented through stick figures, as well as uh, the class of interaction is called ellipses, and uh, the information is linked through lines. And the arrowheads are depicted to show the direction of information that is transmitted. And there is no like rule for considering the scenarios and use cases. And mainly, this consultation is helpful for the doctors as well. Like if one doctor is online, he can assess the data of any other patient, and but only solely he can only edit the patient details at that time, and the nurses or the other medical personnel can add or view some the patient's application or make any specific changes that are required at the time into the patient's report. That's it.
Thanks, Adish. Adish, only thing was I want to add to your what you gave the presentation was see, you started with general what is use case, okay, and uh, you explained that doctor medical scenario in between just haphazardly. So first I was like, where did this doctor come? You were explaining use case with the actor and rectangles. So while you are giving this answer in your examinations, first you will explain like what you did, what is a, this applies to others also. Please listen. Next time when you are giving presentation, try to make these changes. Okay. See, anytime when you are asked to explain use case diagram or sequence diagram or whatever, anything like that concept, in software engineering generally while in writing your exam also always make it a point 3 or 4 lines about what generally it means, how it works. You will explain what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, where it is used, all those you will answer. And then let's consider, while you're explaining abruptly you can't say in the doctor example in the medical field this. Okay, so you will tell, see, your software engineering textbook that's why has those three use cases, that is insulin and patient this thing and weather. Okay, so you will say in the patient MHSPCS system, the doctor has so and so functionality and it will give this. And please understand, yes, now you are presenting, if you're writing it as an answer in your test, you have to give the diagram. Don't just simply um, explain. Okay, write the diagram. Maybe the diagram is not 100% correct, or you don't remember the diagram in the textbook. Okay, don't leave it. Write till how much you know. Even it is 70% correct also, it is fine, and then try to explain it. Did you get this? So you should say in MHC PMS system, medical healthcare system, or in insulin system, or in weather monitoring system, use case. So this and this happens. Like that, you have to come with your answer. Fine. Otherwise, Adish, you covered most of the points. Good, sir. Okay. Actors, eclipse, telling the function. Fine. Very nice. Thank you. So there are other five, only five people I asked to, and the rest of the five I've just maybe some other time I will give you an option. But still, if out of the five, someone has really prepared very well and you want to present, you can. Anyone is there? Otherwise, I will start. I mean, someone like Aditya has really put effort and done all so much, and you want to present, please go ahead. I have no issues. Good morning, ma'am. I think I've left only Abhijit Kumar and Aditya, both the Adityas, Aditya Kumar and Aditya Pratapa. In the three of them, do you want anyone wants to give? You're happy? Yes, reply, guys, the three of you. Fast. Abhijit, you're there? But have you prepared for something, Aditya? Which topic? Okay, sir, I will give you an option because you have taken effort, I know. So let's, yes, Aditya, whatever you have prepared, you need not require a PPT.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
So I'll speaking on Boehm's model.
Okay, very good concept you have chosen. Yes.
So as the name suggests, it is a spiral model, unlike the waterfall model. So it does not have any sequence of activities, and each every loop on the spiral has represents a phase in the process, and there are no such fixed phases such as in like in waterfall model there were system designing and specification, etc. The loops are chosen on the basis what is required. So it is also the next point is it is also a risk explicitly assessed model. So because like it is a risk driven software process, so the risk management and incremental development are integrated in this model. uh, so the as you can see the in each and every loop in the diagram, the risk analysis is completed, and there are some phases according to the requirement. So the first one is the objective setting, and uh, so the what is the objective setting is the objectives of the phase are defined in this stage firstly. So whatever the process and product are identified, the detailed management and plan is uh, made. A plan is made. So the project in this first phase, the project risks are identified and alternative strategies are created to tackle these risks. Then comes the risk assessment and the risk reduction. So whatever the risk is identified, uh, a prototype is created so that these risks are terminated. Then after the risks is have been assessed, some development is carried out, and the and is this development is followed by planning activity, and the next process goes on. So we come to the next phase of the process. That's all now.
Yes. Okay. Aditya. So, Abhijit, would you continue? Wait, Abhijit. I'll just give 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes time. Okay? I'll be back. Okay, Aditya, good. Spiral model is Bohem spiral model. Actually, that topic is a very important topic. I don't know whether I told you while explaining it. Also, the one of the most frequently asked question in your examination, the diagram, as well as basically this Bohem's model is used for risk oriented software. Whenever the software which is there, so it is prone to risk or chances are there, then we use that Bohem spiral model. But nowadays hardly use that is, but from your examination point of view, very important topic. Thanks, Aditya. So next, Abhijit, you will continue incremental model. Okay. Let me try to put those if I get. Yes, Aditya, you can start, pa. I'm sorry, Abhijit. Okay. Oh, Abhijit, you want to put it in. Why you can't explain it, Abhijit? See, your friends, all of them came over microphone and explained. Even if there is disturbance, I won't mind. Okay. Okay, sir. Fine. So, what your friend is explaining. Is this incremental model. Abhijit, how come after testing you have implementation? Abhijit, stop. No, sir. Please check what you have prepared. From where have you prepared? Okay, I don't agree with this. How can you have the coding testing first before implementation? From where did you refer? One suggestion for everyone. Oh no. One suggestion for all the students from next class. I want you to prepare from the textbook. I know, yes, if we take like Aditya, yes, he had presented from the net itself. But see, the source should be correct. Fine. And for me, why? Yes, you gain extra knowledge. It is very good. But for me, first you have to prepare what is there for your syllabus. Pass in the subject. Okay. So I will restrict all you students to prepare from the textbook for whatever topics you are want to prepare for. Please use only Ian Somaville textbook to prepare. At actually, if you are preparing for this book, you will get PPTs also. You can download it free. Whatever I have PPT I am putting, it is all from the textbook. You can refer the same thing, right? So from next class, I don't want anywhere to refer Google. And yes, some places you will get good. The material is good, but something wrong like this, not acceptable. Okay. So from next class, I want everyone to refer to the textbook and prepare. It's fine, Abhijit. It's all right. I mean, this gave me an instance to tell everyone this is what happens, and that is why I don't allow students to write from net and Google answers for the test. I will certainly not give you marks if you write answers from the Google, or even if it is correct. For requirements engineering also, if Aditya writes from his PPT rather from the textbook, I'm not going to give marks. Whatever you want to do, you can do. I'm not going to give marks, because that will not fetch you marks and you will not pass in exam. Okay. After that, you gain knowledge, you refer any Google, I'm fine with this. Fine with that. All the students from next class will prepare for your PPT from the textbook. And there is enough material. If you feel about the topic in the textbook it is not there, you want to cross refer, you want to put more slides, pictures about that, then you refer Google, but not completely from Google. Fine. All of you got it? So yeah, I saw the first picture of your requirements diagram, Aditya, was from the textbook, but some of the feasibility study was not from the textbook, correct? Those pictures, different types of feasibility studies, That was not from the textbook. That's why I agreed. But this one, what Abhijit gave, was completely wrong. So I thought I will put it. Fine. See, the problem is I have time now. I can see what is right and what is wrong, and I can judge and talk to you. Imagine in the examination where evaluators correct 30 answer script within 2 hours or 3 hours. Do you think they have enough time to see what each line you have corrected, what you have written? That will never happen. So please write whatever is there in the textbook for your own good. Fine. So yes, for yesterday scolding you, I'm really sorry. But after scolding whatever you have done today, I'm really happy. I expect you to continue the same. Okay? It's nothing. How much time will it take? 1 hour or half an hour to prepare this much? Right? But at least by this, you had a chance to look into what the subject is. See, now it is fine. Imagine after 3 months you come to college, you have internals, you will have exam, you will have lab, everything. How will you cope up? Will it not be difficult? So you have to get used to it now. I mean, it's all ending now, right? All of this. After November, December, you have to come and write exams, attend classes, everything will come to normal. Then uh, accepting that change again will be very difficult for you, right? So please start preparing, start reading little by little bit. Okay, I've given your deadline for your assignments also. Please write your assignments. While writing your assignments, see what you're writing, read what you're writing and write anyway you're writing. Simply don't copy and paste. So very good effort by all the students. Thank you so much. So next class Saturday, I will have from USN 11 to 20 along with 2 Abhijits. Okay, 1 hour we will do this, and after that I will continue with my class. In case if you don't get time, I will continue in the next class. You can give your presentation, but I will make sure that everyone has given it. Okay. Did I miss anyone? Aditya Kumar. Did I give you a chance, Aditya? Huh. So Aditya, have you prepared? You want to give today only? You want to give today, sir? Please. Sorry, I missed your name. Now I was checking the name list. So that's the reason I remembered. Yes, Aditya, please start. No, Aditya. See what Abhijit Kumar gave, wrote. I was not happy with that. At least I can hear your voices. I can know you have put some effort. No matter if it is right or wrong, sir. Actually, it will improve your skills also. Now I would like to tell others. You might be complaining about. Ha, Aditya, let 1 second, let me finish. You might be complaining, ma'am, what online teaching, it is not good like that and all. But when you could listen to your friends, see, it is not very easy to teach in online or to present in online when your audience is not there. Fine, there will be lots of problems. Like what your friend said, there is network issues. Do you think I will not have the same thing? Yeah, it will allow you to give an opportunity. Aditya, if is there is some problem like that, I can give you a chance in the next class, sir. But typing is was not effective, sir. So what you want to do? You want to do now only by owning your microphone, or on Saturday? I'm giving you an option. That I can. Yes, Aditya, it is fine. There is disturbance, I get it, but it is fine, Aditya. What happened, Aditya Agarwal? So you'll give on Saturday? Okay, fine. See, for this, you don't have to fight at home, tell your parents or your siblings or whoever not to make noise or to be like that and this, okay? Even if there is disturbance, I can understand. Fine, it all happens. So don't worry, even if there is slight difference, disturbance or more disturbance, even in the background, if something is going on, I understand it happens to me also when I'm teaching at home. So please don't, you don't have to be embarrassed or feel bad about it. Fine. What matters to me is whether you have prepared and whether you have opened your book and you have read something. That is what I want to know. Apart from that, nothing else. Not to test any of your skills. Fine. So please don't be embarrassed about anything, or you don't have to tell anything at home or do any kind of things. Fine. Whatever is the disturbance, whoever is there, I am okay with this, and I also face the same kind of situations. So anyone who wants, please, when you're coming on the microphone, don't take it as something. Fine. And what I said, I want you to go through the textbook or notes and learn about the subject. That is what I am expecting by this activity, nothing more than that. Fine. Okay, so let's start with today. So last class we were doing with the state diagram of micro-oven. Okay. Basically, we were dealing with behavioral models. In behavioral models, there are two types, data-driven and event handling. In event handling, in data-driven, you learnt about data flow diagrams and activity diagrams. In event modeling, you learnt about state diagrams. In your textbook for state diagram, they have a working of a microwave oven. So initially the state is, it is in the waiting state, and then we can start this microwave in two modes. One is half power or full power. If it is full power, according to your example, it is 600 watts or whatever the, I don't know what is the, yeah, 600 watts or 300 watts, it starts. Okay, then once I am in this, I can move in between from half to full, from full to half, I can move around. Then I set the timer from that using a timer. Okay, and this timer can be increased, get number can be increased or decreased. After that, I will close the, if the door is closed, then I will enable and I will start. Otherwise, if it is open, I will give a warning message. So that will give, that will be asked like close the door or something like that. A beep will come. I'll close the door. Then it will go to, yeah, enable and ready. Once I am in this, I will go to start. So it will begin its operation. Fine. And once it is, then yes, I open the door. I can start the timer again. See, in this case, once it is done, I can open the door and start again, or I am done and the display comes and the entire activity is completed here. So this means beginning of this circle means beginning, whereas this circle means the end of the operation. So here we have different states here, and then event which triggers is given by the label. See, in this case, there is an event full power. So when that is triggered, it goes to the full power mode. So this is the event here, and based on this event, it will go to this state. If the event is half power, then it will go to the state half power state. So an event will trigger based on which the system will go to a different state. So this is how to represent systems like this. See, for example, your email system I give so many times, no, that cannot be represented using state diagrams. There are certain systems only which can be represented using state diagrams. So one of them is your microwave. Okay. See, your hospital management, insulin, weather station, that and all cannot be represented using state diagrams. That's why they have given this example, that is microwave oven. Okay. So this gives the working. You can see what are the states and what are the descriptions of those states. It is in the waiting state, half power, full power, set time, disabled, enabled, and operation. Fine. So what is the stimulus means? What is the event with stimulus here means events. So what are the events? Half power event, full power, timer, number, door open, door close, start and cancel. So this completes this example of behavioral model. So the overall operation they have given here, it's the same. You can go through it. So can I go to the next topic? Done? I think it is the same thing. The operation here, door open, whatever learned. The next topic what we have is model driven engineering. What is this model driven engineering? It is an approach of software development where models are developed, or model is an output of the development process. So in model driven engineering, what happens is the output of the software development is a model, and based on this model, programs are automatically generated. See, what can I say is here in model driven engineering, what happens is you come up with a model of the system. Fine, ma'am, everywhere we come up with a model. Yes, this model is then in turn used to generate the program that will automatically execute on a hardware or a software platform. So here in model driven engineering, you will not sit and write the program. The programs will automatically be generated by the models. So that is the advantage of model driven engineering. Ma'am, if someone is automatically generating code for us, then what is the need of software engineers? Correct, right? Yes. You will tell me like that? No. So if everything would be like that, then there would be no need of software engineers. But it is not like that. It the working is somewhat different, and there are some pros and cons and constraints with this systems. Okay. So, model driven engineering, that is MDE, is an approach to software development where models rather than the programs are the outputs of the development process. The programs that execute on the hardware or the software are then generated from these models. Okay. So, the proponents of MDE argue that the raises the level of the abstraction in the software engineering so that the engineers no longer have to be concerned with the programming language details or the specifics of the execution platform. Mainly, why do we use this is whenever we want to develop a platform independent code. What do I mean by platform independent code? Can someone say? What do I mean by platform independent code? Or programming language that is not dependent upon the platform or the hardware or the software in which it is running. No one, have you even heard of the term platform independent code? Come on, guys. CSE students, Aryan says cross platform compiling and execution. Hmm. Okay, fine. Kamal Nayan. Actually, no. I was hearing from all faculties. Fine. What will be your comments and chats and what and all you will give? But today, from yesterday, I am also experiencing the same thing. So please stop this. Next time, if I see all such kinds of anything related to the subject, you let me post it on the chat box. Don't waste my time. Okay. Aditya Raj says, hmm, independent. Yes. Yeah, this one, everyone like Aditya Raj would have said, um, like Java is platform independent. That is what we keep on telling. See, what do we mean by others also? Please listen to this concept very well. This is a general concept which you have to, as a software people, were a CSE student should know. What do I mean by platform independent code? See, platform independent code or platform independent software means if you write a program or a software or a piece of code in one system. Let's say, for example, I am using a hardware or a software, anything can be different. Let me say I am in the college lab, I'm using the PC here and I'm developing a code software. Okay. Now, whatever software I have developed, it should be able to run in any other machine. In any other machine means in your laptop or in your phone, mobile phones, Android phones, or in your iPhones, or anywhere in your tab or anything, right? It should be able to run. Then I will say the code or your software is platform independent in the sense it will run on any platform irrespective of whatever it is, right? Otherwise it will be like oh, my code will run only in my system, it is platform dependent. I have to say that it will run only on Dell systems, it will not run on HP, or, uh, iPhones, or iPad, right? Yes. 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 Right? Or I pad, right? Yes. Ma'am, nowadays every software will run in every systems, right? Yes, nowadays it is the basic requirement that your code should run on all system. But earlier that was not the case. It was platform dependent. Most of the code which were developed in Windows would never run in Unix operating systems. Fine, like that. So all this is possible because of the newer languages. Actually, the code what you write in Java is platform independent, in the sense it will run on any machines. Why is this required platform independent? Let's take the example of your microwave model driven engineering. Fine. There are a number of microwave companies available, right? LG, Samsung, IFB, what and all systems are there. Let's say there is a company which is developing a software for one of the brands, IFB or LG microwave. Fine. Now, imagine for the same software company, what Samsung comes and says we also require a software for our microwaves. Fine. Do you think the company will write a complete code from scratch? Yes, they can write, but don't you think it is a waste of their time and resources rewriting the same code? In order to avoid it is they will write a software or they will write a code in such a way that if it is running on the LG system, tomorrow it should be able to run on Samsung, tomorrow in IFB or any other hardware comes in the market later, any other hardware company comes with them for the requirement, they will be able to write the code. So that is known as platform independence. Okay, it is not dependent upon the hardware, not only hardware, it's the software also. Suppose, let's say I develop an app and I say it will run only on Windows or it will run only on Android operating system. Does it make any sense? No one will use it, right? If I come up with an app or a web page, it should be able to run on my desktop, it should be able to run on a laptop, in a mobile phone, Android, iTab, anywhere. So that is also platform independence. So next time if someone asks you what is platform independence or platform neutral, will you be able to answer it, or will you remain silent, telling that we don't know? At least now you respond. So that is what you will be learning in your engineering career, how to develop a platform independent code. Basically, when you do programming in Java, .NET, they will you will be writing a platform independent code. So next year, when will we learn? Oops, fourth semester. You will learn how to write Java code. Java program, whatever you have written, whatever you write, it is platform independent. Fine with this, all of you? Shall I stop at it? I'll continue with modern driven engineering in the next class, Saturday. Come on, 82 students here, 80 students here, apart from me. I'm not even getting yes or no. Okay, let's take your attendance. USN 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Adish, he was there, he gave the presentation, fine. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19 was present, okay, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 24 is Azim.